theories, certainly nonverbal, all the theories that apply to nonverbal probably need to be rethought in terms of how they operate in a virtual or even text, and how we are adapting those aspects to continue to do the meta-communication and continue to do the signs and the symbols and so on.
I think it's real easy for us just in scholarship, in academia, to just take, well, that's what they said, I'm going to apply it to this new situation, without rethinking the fundamental elements, the ontology, the axiology of those theories, where they're coming from, and are they still valid? You know, what's changed?
There's also context and credibility, because with the sharing capability. So there's a conversation going on, but people tend to like to take their part out before they forward the message. Mm-hmm. And you have that with Facebook sharing, just maybe what you say. And nobody knows the month or the week or the day of the conversation that went on.
Okay.
And it might be somebody that just shares that information of just dealing with, they don't know the context, they don't know anything, and then your credibility could be shot. And then with the online, you know, they're talking now, they have companies that are cleaning up people's Google and everything because they're not getting job interviews because they're seeing these things out there.
But in the business world, there's an expectation of how to use this new technology. From a business marketing standpoint, how do we capitalize on social media? But one of the things we're trying to teach our graduates, our upper level students, as they're preparing to go out in the job market, is create a digital portfolio, is what we've always called it. Now you're seeing terms of social resume, where it shows all of your different links and all your resume information, but all of these different social links. And so maybe you need to create some different accounts and not put those old ones on there, and you need to create your professional accounts and re-profile yourself. And that's image management. That gets into a whole different area.
And I've had students who argue with me that I should not have a different persona. I should have one.
Why is that? Because we do like that
I
personality.
understand why.
Okay? Look at what was said about the public speaking project yesterday. What did the students want to see? They want to see a real person. They don't want to see this stoic professional facade. They want to see a real person. Where do we lose the boundary though? Where do we draw the line? And that gets into status issues.
Maybe that's exactly it. It does come down to boundary issues. You have in the business world, we talk about having your personal brand and all that. And there are people who are very prolific on Facebook in terms of volume, but you can tell they're very focused on what they actually disclose. And maybe there's even a relationship with the big 5 personality traits. Self-monitoring. Are you self-monitoring face-to-face? Are you self-monitoring on Facebook? And are you conscious, aware and intentional about what you're posting and why, and what your audience is? Is it a platform for your career or your family relationships? What are you using it for? What do you want to communicate and why?
And that's right. My students become concerned with their cloud score. They want to know what their cloud score is. And they do things intentionally to drive up their cloud score.
What do you mean by cloud score?
A cloud score is there's a website that monitors their social interaction. And they give them a measurement based on how often they do different various kinds of social media interactions.
And is it also how often people respond to their comments?
It's based on how many people you engage through the things that you do online.
Yeah. And the big thing when Facebook started is who could get the most friends.
KLOUT, that's how it's spelled.
Yeah.
But I still see this as some kind of model of business or just a production. So who developed these technologies? There are people who are not best at communicating at all. And so they created something for us ordinary people who can communicate to actually get used to. And we now are set in a context that is best to work for them instead of for us. However, we jump at it because it's technology. That is why now we are in a really not voluntarily chosen, but we live in it already. So that is why it's totally good for all the Google nerds actually to work at home anywhere they want, and they still provide us all kinds of stuff that we never even can imagine, right? But we are the people who actually suffer from something that they think about, that they don't really need even human communication to make that happen. That's the part. I think even like Facebook. Facebook, I don't know whether the Facebook guy is really good at communicating. However, he can use statistics and everything to create this. Okay, I'd like to see your interactions, right? How many interacts you have to give you a sense of really interpersonal or social connection. He probably doesn't even speak well in public.
But that brings up another very interesting dimension to this whole conversation about theory and relationships. You may remember recently the new president of Yahoo eliminated their ability to work at home and said everybody has to come to the office. Well, the reason she did that was because she was from Google. And one of the big things Google does is requires everybody to be on the campus, because they have found that that is the source of creativity. Direct, real, human, face-to-face interaction. Well, now wait a minute, that's a study right there that talks about the difference in the kinds of relationships you can have electronically and face-to-face. Aren't they telling us that face-to-face works better? Well, for some purposes it obviously does.
And that goes back to Peters and Waterman and search of excellence in management by walking around.
Yep.
I mean, Google is
Yep.
pretty much following that model
Yep.
in terms of how
But is that what they're selling? Where we work in the cloud,
Right.
is that what they're selling? I don't know.
But, the research has started on, on virtual groups and, going back to, again, Rheingold's virtual community and continuing with, all these most recent book, NetSmart, and looking at, how to work together well online and the advantages and disadvantages of that and how to develop as much of that creative connection despite the fact that you may not be face to face.
Yeah, but the Google experience or the Google model is the
It's
same.
It doesn't work as well.
It doesn't work as well.
Right.
See, and that's
what I'm
just a
asking.
wonderful
This is
area
what
for
they say,
research.
Here's what we want you to do.
That's
It
right.
doesn't work for us, but we want you to do this because you buy our product.
But there's a difference in efficiency and creativity.
Right.
Yeah, different
Okay.
answers to different questions. If you want high productivity with known processes, virtual teams may be the way to go, where you don't have the emotional contact and all the other distractions.
I think some of the research is saying exactly that.
But on the other hand, if you really want creativity and innovation, you need the time to reflect with one another and spend time
I mean,
with each other.
Google has even done things
And
like
frown and smile and those things.
Google has even done things like figure out how long the cafeteria line needs to be to get maximum human interaction in the cafeteria line.
This is one thing that, this is peripheral to the conversation, but I think it's related because everything's related. One of the things all corporations are selling are the corporate image, who we are to our customers, and Google tries to sell that, maybe you have to come to work, but it's a fun place to work. I really want to know what their motivation is behind agreeing to be the backdrop in the movie The Internship, which is a movie that's just coming out.
Yeah,
It's a comedy. A couple of, I don't know the complete details, but a couple of older kind of dropout losers get internships at Google. And comedy ensues, but the backdrop is Google's corporate office.
Yeah. To the marketing for Google.
Product
All
placement,
right.
but it makes it just how the
We're running
environment is too.
out of time. This is what I was hoping we could get into. Let me just kind of close up. This was the proposal I'd sent for the panel to Jim. Is this a new era of communication, or is it only reifying old structures but using new tools? Specifically, the question that I wanted to seek today is to address whether the new digital communication era has fundamentally changed the way we communicate, or is it just simply reinforcing our ability to communicate in ways that we've always preferred?
Well, and of course, that was what my part of my program yesterday was about, asking exactly that question, saying, that's what we really ought to be researching. We ought to be trying to find the answer to that.
Because it really is all about communication.
No kidding.
Try to tell students that. Communication is fundamental, as is foundational to social science as math is to the hard science.
Human communication is the only way that human beings can interact. That ain't no other way. So it's the fundamental process you need to study.
And what's fascinating about it is ACA. like Steve and I were on the original board, and we're at our 20th anniversary this year of the American Communication Association. And the ACA was born essentially out of this new thing that was called the internet early on. And so it was to be a virtual organization, but with the bylaws and the way it was set up was you needed human contact still, so there needs to be a conference every year where the people come together and have face-to-face interaction. It's the alternative to the 8,000 person NCA kind of conference where it's so large you can't have much
You get lost,
interaction
right.
face-to-face, that these will be smaller conferences. You cap them at no more than a certain number. I think we've usually kept it at no more than 75. And so you have conversations like this and the smaller number of panels and the greater participation. And it's interesting because ACA was the first organization ever, first anything to have an online journal. And the fights early on with faculty, chairs, academia saying, well, the internet's not going to be anything, that's just fluffy, etc. They wouldn't even count it toward your resume, that's not a paper, that's online. And it was ACA that started all of that and showed that the internet could be a legitimate force. And so it's fascinating that we're coming around full circle too, and a lot of the principles we started with are the ones that you're actually still talking about today, which is great. I think it's an opening for another, like a ACA journal edition that could be just focused on these individual topics of taking the internet where it is right now after that 20 years and having like 7 papers submitted to have them and analyze these and take like yours and have it as an ACA journal article.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Is there anything else?